Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. There's a guy mowing the lawn across the street and I really hope that it is not interfering with the sound in this video. I've got this beautiful vegan, not healthified chocolate chip banana muffin from my favorite coffee shop and a latte, decaf with almond milk, my favorite. But I just wanted to come have a little chat with you guys about starting recovery. Stay. Anyways, I've gotten this question a lot on my YouTube channel as well as my Instagram. People ask me all the time, how do I start recovery? And I'm like, that's a beautiful question. So I'm gonna give you some tips today. Of course, starting recovery is so individualized. It depends on the person, what you do, but I'm gonna give you some tips that will hopefully help you figure out which way works best for you. So I guess I'll start out by kind of telling you guys how I started recovery. And I want to be completely transparent with you guys because I feel like on social media in general and like on my social media, it can seem like, you know, I just started recovery and it was just like this uphill journey to freedom after that, but that is so not the case. It took me trying to start recovery a few times before it actually stuck. It took me, you know, recovery is not linear and people say that all the time, but it was like literally I tried, I failed, I didn't want to, I wanted to, I tried, I failed, I didn't want to, and it was that for a while until it actually stuck and until I got the rest of my life in a balanced place where I could fully commit to recovery, if that makes sense. So for me, a lot of feeling like I needed to stay in my eating disorder came from the fact that I was still involved in a career that basically encouraged eating disorders and that revolved around staying certain measurements, keeping your body a certain way, and it just revolved so much. I mean, it completely revolved around my appearance. I was basically a professional coat hanger, a professional mannequin, whatever you want to call it, as a fashion model. That's what it was. And everything revolved around my measurements, everything revolved around my appearance. And so huge part of my recovery has been stepping away from that because it just was not healthy for me. And there's just absolutely no way I could have recovered fully and still been modeling. Like, there's just no way. So anyway, back to when I first kind of wanted to get started with recovery. I actually had a memory pop up on my Snapchat memories, I think. And so 2 years ago, this was when this particular journey towards recovery started for me. But I was at an all-time low with my eating disorder. I was at an all-time low with my health. And I actually was home for a couple weeks before I was going to go to Mexico City for 2 months for modeling. So I was home for a couple weeks before that. And my parents had just left and gone on a mission trip, so I was home alone. I didn't have my license at the time, so I was literally stuck at home. I couldn't drive anywhere. So it was like a Friday evening, and my wisdom teeth had been like trying to come in for a while, but my dentist was like, if they're not causing any problems, then we can just kind of wait and see what happens and just wait until you have time to get them out, because that was the biggest thing. Like, I was modeling and I didn't have time to get my wisdom teeth out, so it's like, okay, I'll just wait until they cause problems, which really is not a good idea to just wait until they cause problems. So I was like a Friday evening, and all of a sudden my cheek swells up to the size of a chipmunk on one side, and I experienced the absolute worst pain. I'm telling you, I've experienced some very painful things, but this was one of the worst pains of my life. I didn't get any sleep that night. It just hurt so bad, and my cheek was the size of a chipmunk. So I called my doctor. Luckily, my parents are really good friends with my doctor, and so he called in an antibiotic because my wisdom tooth was probably infected, and so I got on an antibiotic. The next day I had the worst panic attack of my life, to the point where I almost called 911 because I thought I was legit having a heart attack. It was one of the scariest moments of my life, if not the scariest moment of my life. I thought I was dying. I thought I was having a heart attack. I was completely alone. I didn't know what to do. Just so many things. Okay, I'm struggling. My phone just overheated, so I had to turn the air on full blast and let it cool down for a bit. I guess propping it up in the sunlight was not my best idea, so this is a really funky angle, but it'll work. We're gonna work with what we've got here. So anyway, back to story time. I was all alone. I was terrified for my life, and like this whole time I was just thinking, I shouldn't be scared for my life in this situation. A normal healthy 21-year-old should not be scared for their life because their wisdom tooth is infected. It should just be oh, my wisdom tooth is infected, I'm on this antibiotic, it's fine, I'm gonna be fine. But I was scared for my life, and I was like, it doesn't have to be this way. And I just remember thinking that. I remember thinking, I'm doing this to myself. I could be healthy. It doesn't have to be this way. And so those thoughts were kind of just like really running through my mind at this point. Just like, I'm literally doing this to myself. And I've always really valued my health, which is why I think no one really expected, especially my parents, they never really expected me to have an eating disorder because I've always valued my health. So the fact that I had an eating disorder was really like, didn't really match up with that, which is why it was so unexpected for like my parents. And honestly, for me even, like, and why it was a living hell for me, because like my anxiety was like, you need to eat, you're gonna pass out, you're gonna kill yourself. But my eating disorder was like, no, you can't eat, you're gonna gain weight. And I got really, really scared when that eating disorder voice was overpowering the anxiety voice. And I was like, this isn't good, this isn't right. Anyway, I need to talk faster before my phone overheats again. So, longest weekend of my life. Monday rolls around. I got into an oral surgeon. They were like, I called every oral surgeon in my city. None of them could do them that day. It was urgent because I still was going to Mexico the next week. Literally a week from this day that I was calling all the oral surgeons, I was supposed to be going to Mexico. So I was like, this is urgent. I need it done now. I need to get back to work. So I was calling around every oral surgeon in my city. None of them had any available slots that day. They're like, a bit last minute. But ended up the last one that I called, he was like, we can get you in for a consultation today. I can't promise that we can take them out, but we'll see what we can do. And so I got there, I had a family friend drive me there, and I walked back there into the consultation. He was like, okay, if we're gonna do this, we have to do it right now. And I was like, oh, great, sounds good, let's do it. So literally walked from my consultation back into the room, stuck an IV in me. I was knocked out. So I got my wisdom teeth out, and after that, it was rough. Again, I felt like I was dying. I had this constant pressure in my chest, like someone was sitting on my chest. It was absolutely awful. Wouldn't wish these feelings upon anyone. I was having multiple panic attacks every single day. I was super dizzy after the anesthesia for like almost a solid week after that. So this was a really long week. But I ended up being stupid and still going to Mexico a week after I got my wisdom teeth out, even though I felt every sign telling me not to. I felt God literally telling me not to go. I still went because I was like, I didn't want to disappoint people. I didn't want to disappoint my agents. I didn't want to look weak. I was like, okay, I still have stitches in my mouth. I still feel like I'm dying, but I'm going to go anyways. And so a week after getting my wisdom teeth out, I went to Mexico City for a modeling contract. I was supposed to be there for 2 months. I got there, again, multiple panic attacks every single day, constant pressure in my chest, feeling like I was dying, really scared for my life, just really scared in general. Still had stitches in my mouth. On my second round of antibiotics at this point, my gut was screwed up, everything was screwed up. And I was in Mexico City. This was like the longest week of my life. I was also alone in the models apartment. So when you're a model, you stay in models apartments with all the other models from your agency, but no one else was in town for this first week that I was there. So I was completely alone, isolated, scared, lonely, knew I shouldn't be there, knew my health was at risk, didn't know what to do about it, just all around scared. After a week of being there, I woke up one day absolutely sickest I've ever been in my life. Stomach issues, which is very common in Mexico, but this was different. Had a really high fever. Literally felt like I was dying this time. I know I've been saying that a lot, but I literally felt it this time. Ended up going to the doctor in Mexico City, which was a whole experience in itself. A whole experience in itself. And then at that point, when I got sick, I was like, I'm going home. I'm done with this. This is my sign. I need to leave. I need to go home. I need to work on healing. And I was like, I'm just done with this. And so by the grace of God, the doctor in Mexico gave me the strongest antibiotic on the market. So bye-bye to my gut health for the next year. It took so long for my gut to be normal after this. 3rd round of antibiotic in the span of 2 weeks, and this was the strongest one on the market. But by the grace of God, truly this is a miracle. After taking this antibiotic, I was well enough the very next day to fly home, which is literally a miracle that I was able to do that. So I flew home the next day, left early, despite fearing disappointing people, and I went home and I was like, I'm gonna prioritize my health. I'm gonna recover. This was one of those times when I thought I was gonna recover, but I did not fully commit. It was I just dipped, at this point I just dipped a baby toe into recovery. Really didn't get much into it. I was I'm gonna gain a little bit of weight. I ate more, gained a couple pounds, but I still wanted to go back to New York for Fashion Week the next month, literally. So I was I can gain a little bit of weight, but can't fully gain as much weight as I need to because I still want to model and I still want a chance at Fashion Week. So I gave myself a good month and a half or so at home, and then I went back to New York for Fashion Week, which so stupid of me. But at this point, I had just started school online at the Institute for Integrative Nutrition to become a holistic health coach. And let me tell you, learning about holistic health was one of the biggest turning points in my recovery. As we all know, eating disorders have nothing to do with the food. So, and health in general just goes way beyond the food. And so learning about holistic health opened my eyes and just made me realize all of these areas of my life that were really negatively impacting my health. And the biggest one was modeling. And so I was in New York for Fashion Week. I got one small show, got put on hold for lots of over 10 really good shows. They dropped me last minute, ended up just doing one really small show. I was distraught. I was like, wow, I'm just not good enough. Was kind of, really in a low point after this. And my agent was like, okay, you got an opportunity to go to Tokyo. Do you want to take it? I had been to Asia. I had lived in Hong Kong for almost 4 months, in Thailand for 3 months at this point, and I was kind of done with Asia. It's just really, really tough out there, and I just didn't enjoy it, being out there and living out there and working out there as a model. And I was like, fine, I'll go. It's just 2 months. I'll just give it one more shot, and then I'm done with Asia. I knew at this point, because the holistic health was really resonating with me and really changing my perspective on so many things, I knew that I needed to heal, and I knew that I needed a break from modeling to do that, but I didn't want to admit it. I didn't want to look weak. I didn't want to look like I was quitting. I didn't want to look like a failure. I didn't want to disappoint people. I was such a people pleaser. My whole life, I've been such a bad people pleaser. But these were all these things that I was fearful of. And so I said yes, and I went to Tokyo. I was supposed to be there for 2 months, and I got there, and literally after I got there, God was sending me one sign after another. And I know I said this last time, but I still need to do a story time on this, but I don't want this video to be too long, so I'm gonna just kind of give you a brief overview. One really awful sign after another that I needed to leave and that I wasn't meant to be there. So many things going on behind the scenes with the agencies that I just didn't agree with. Prostitution, drugs, so many really bad things that I had never experienced in my modeling journey up to that point. And, there were also girls with eating disorders that were obvious, and it was just, and I got hit in the head by a giant bird. There was a typhoon, so many weird things. And I was like, okay, I need to leave. And the final straw was when I heard about the prostitution and the drugs that were going on behind the scenes at my agency. And that's when I was like, I'm done. I don't agree with any of this. I don't want to be a part of this. This is not me. And it was the first time I'd come to terms with the fact that modeling isn't me. And that's okay. It's okay. So I called my agent. She, of course, seemed very disappointed in me, and I had to live with that. I had to accept that, and I had to be okay with that, because this was what was best for me, and this is what was best for my health. And so I left Tokyo early. I came home. I had to pay my way out of it. I had to pay my agency back. I had to pay them to leave, basically, which is a little messed up, but I paid my way out of it. I came back home, and that's when I was like, okay, this was I think late October, and I was like, okay, now through December, I'm really committing to healing. And I kind of, at this point, so I dipped a pinky toe in. At this point, I was dipping probably like a full foot in to recovery, and I was just really soaking up my school, really soaking up holistic health, really resonating with it, really falling in love with it, and really just assessing my life and just realizing that modeling was so unhealthy for me, and all of these things outside of the food that were contributing to my eating disorder. And I just really worked on just prioritizing healing, immersing myself into books, podcasts, YouTube videos, all the social media. If you're interested in what those are, I filmed a video on that, my last video, so go check that out if you're interested. But I just really committed to just learning and absorbing a lot of recovery information at this point, and just holistic health in general. This was late October. I got home. December rolled around, and I went back to New York to meet with agencies. I dropped my previous agency. I went back to New York to meet with new agencies in hopes of signing with a new one. I don't know what I was thinking. Guys, my phone keeps overheating. This is really a mess. But anyways, I came home after New York, after I met with the agencies, enjoyed the holidays, and then January rolls around, late January, and I finally hear back from some of the agencies, and there's one that's like, we're very interested, we want her here next week. And when they said that, I was like, it just still doesn't feel right. It really didn't feel right still. And this was January 2020, and I was like, it really just doesn't feel right. Something just feels off. I think I need more time to heal. And it took me days to be able to admit that, and it took me crying on the phone to my agent because I just felt like I was disappointing her. It took so much strength for me to say that and to admit that, but I did, and I was like, I just need more time to heal. And so after that, COVID happened, and so if I had gone and I had said yes and I had gone to New York, I probably would have been stuck there during COVID, which would have been absolutely awful. So very thankful that I stuck to what my gut was telling me and did not go. And so then February rolled around, and the biggest turning point in my recovery journey, when I would say that I stepped 2 feet into recovery, was when I opened up about my eating disorder on my Instagram, Gabicado. After doing that, I felt the biggest sense of freedom. I felt loved, supported. I had this community that I was so desperate for throughout my whole journey, just so desperate for this community, and I found that through opening up. So the reason I'm sharing my journey with you guys is because I think that the first and most important thing that you should do when recovering from your eating disorder is finding a safe, loving, supportive community. I wouldn't be anywhere close to where I am today if I had not moved home, if I had not gotten out of that toxic environment that was modeling and that toxic environment of isolation, and I had not come home to my family, a loving, supportive community, my friends, loving, supportive community, and then took it a step further and opened up and found a whole new online supportive community, which was so incredibly helpful. I just connected with so many beautiful, like-minded people that helped me so much on my journey, and I wouldn't be here today without all of that. So getting out of a toxic environment and finding a loving, supportive community is, I think, one of the most important first steps of recovery. So if you're wondering how to get started, I would say do that. You definitely have to tell someone. You have to open up. You have to have people hold you accountable. I know it's so tempting to just want to do this alone, and I know that you feel like you can do this alone. I felt the same thing, but you need a loving, supportive community. You really do. Get out of a toxic environment, find a healthy environment, find a loving, supportive community, open up to people. If you don't feel like you have anyone in your life, like family or friends that are going to be supportive, find a therapist, find a dietitian if that's available to you. Find people online. There are free support groups online for eating disorders. So research, find that. You have to give it your all, and you have to have support, and you have to have community throughout this journey. Next, I would say my whole recovery journey, when I think back to it, my whole recovery journey, like the start of it, was just, I think the biggest word that I can use to sum up the start of my recovery was hope. hope and trust. I had to hope that this was going to lead to a lifetime of freedom. I had to hope that this was going to lead to lasting happiness and joy. I had to trust that all of this pain and recovery was going to lead me to that freedom. So it's a lot of just stepping out into the unknown and just blindly trusting that this is going to work, because I promise it does. And every single person that reaches recovery will tell you the exact same thing. There is not a single person out there who has reached full recovery and regrets it. There's not a single person out there who has reached full recovery and says that it's not the best thing that they've done for their lives. So you have to just step out into the water. You have to feel the fear and do it anyway. And I know that is so incredibly hard, but you just have to do it. You have to just feel the fear, do it anyways. You have to put your hope into the unknown. You have to put your trust into the unknown, because this unknown is going to lead you to a lifetime of peace. So once you have the support and you have the love, you have the community, you need to make a game plan. So whether that's, maybe that's a meal plan. Maybe that's just saying you're just going to go all in and just completely let go of all your disordered behaviors. Maybe that's finding a therapist and a dietitian and working with them. Maybe it's setting up a deal with your parents. Whatever it is, you need to make a game plan for how you're going to overcome these disordered thoughts. Professional help is beautiful, and if you have the resources to get a therapist, to get a dietitian, I highly, highly suggest that you do. I started seeing a therapist last October, so October 2020, and my only regret with therapy is that I had started sooner. So make sure you find an eating disorder specialized therapist. It's just the most beautiful thing. Therapy allows you to heal the deeper wounds that are going on inside of you so that you can find that full freedom, that full lasting freedom. Because eating disorders stem from something so much deeper than just the food. So I feel like therapists are so beneficial in the recovery process. But yes, so after you come up with a game plan, then immerse yourself into books, podcasts, journal, heal your wounds, talk with a therapist, talk with family, talk with friends, use that community and get your life back. I could truly just go on and on about this. But I hope this kind of helps a little bit about just starting recovery and just doing it. You just have to feel the fear and do it anyways. If any of you guys need some support, or if you have any further questions, DM me on Instagram. I would love to help you out. And yeah, recovery is scary. It's the hardest thing you're probably going to do, but it is the most rewarding thing in the whole entire world. Be able to just come after lunch and get a muffin because it sounded good and a latte because it sounded good and not have any guilt around it. I'm just happy. I'm living my life. I'm feeling the best I've ever felt. I'm able to honor my body and nourish it and treat it how it's meant to be treated. This is a feeling that I wouldn't trade for the world. And I still have to pinch myself sometimes because it feels so surreal that I have this relationship with myself and my body. So I promise the fight is well worth it. And I promise, even though it seems in the moment like it's the worst thing ever and that you're never going to find freedom and that maybe you're the one person that can never recover from your eating disorder, I promise it's possible. And I promise if you put in the work, if you get the support, you will find freedom. So I really hope this is helpful for you guys. Starting recovery is the best thing you will ever do. And I hope this gives you a little motivation to start recovery for yourself. Sending you guys all of my light, all of my love. If you are going on your recovery journey right now, I'm so proud of you. And your future self is so proud of you as well. So yeah, I know this was kind of short. Maybe it didn't make sense at all, but I hope it did and I hope it was helpful. I'm sending you guys all of my love, all of my strength. Please don't hesitate to reach out to me on Instagram. Send me a DM. I would love to help you in any way that I can. And yeah, I hope you guys have a beautiful rest of your day. This is your sign to go get that treat that sounds good and enjoy your life, nourish your body, treat it with kindness. I love you guys and I will see you in my next video.